Tech Snippets Today with Joseph Raczynski.
All right, I'm here with Mitchell. We are in lovely Singapore at Token 2049. Last time we actually met was in Lisbon, Portugal in 2022. And there was a massive warehouse that we were a part of near Cannes. I believe that was what it was. And it was crazy weather. Like the storm came through and it was like a fire hose going through the roof into everyone's like displays and all this stuff. It was insane. Luckily, we don't have that here yet.
Yeah, so at least we still have the wind.
That's right.
Still missing on the sun, but we're getting bits and pieces.
That's right. And it's a far cry from like Lisbon, where everything's sort of tagged up, right, with spray painting. And here, I don't know how long we've been here, but it is known to be super, super clean. Like there's not a single piece of gum on the sidewalk. There's no spray painting anywhere.
We went from a place where grunge is a value prop, right? It's cute, it's part of the charm, to a place where grunge is a crime. So it's an interesting juxtaposition, one side of the earth to the other. We're covering it all.
So, all right, what I'd really love to hear about is Immunefi is actually coming out with some special news, things that are about to pop. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that, if you could share.
Sure. Well, the long and short of it is, for the last really year and a half, we've been working on what we think is the single most important problem in the industry, and that is solving the security problem. At this point, we've won the UX problem. We have amazing financial products, right, that are going to make blockchain a household instrument that you see everywhere in the world. Like, that game is already done.
Yeah.
We've solved the regulatory problem. We somehow managed to get the most powerful person in the world, the President of the United States, in our corner. That was an unexpected turn of events, and we can never rewind that clock. The reality is crypto is going to be taking center stage here forward. But we have the security problem, and the security problem is blocking literal trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars from moving on chain. So we need to crack this, and so we've been spending time trying to dig into this. How do we solve that problem? What does it mean to solve the security problem? What are all the constituent and component parts that are together driving 2025 to be the worst year for hacks on record?
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty scary. If we had this year every year, then we would see something like, we're talking like 3 to 5% of assets, all TVL, lost on chain due to hacks. For context, if something similar happened in traditional finance, people would lose their shirts over 0.1%, over 0.2%.
Right.
So we came up with a solution to that. A solution that should scale with the entirety of the industry. And of course, that is the Immunefi Magnus, the unified security platform, what we call the Security OS.
Okay.
And we also figured out how to make that really grow, how to make that really scalable, how to make that something that's going to be able to serve thousands and then tens of thousands of different financial products and institutions and trillions of capital and on-chain. And that is by uniting the best of the industry together with one instrument, a token, go figure, around this platform, such that no matter what service you need, you can find a product that will cover that particular attack vector, that particular threat vector, and no matter how severe the challenge, you will be able to find the best-in-class product. And all of us in this vast security alliance of sorts, this Immunefi security ecosystem, coming together around one asset, sharing in the results, sharing in the benefits, all incentivized in the same direction to provide the most scalable and the most effective possible solution to protect the entire world.
Fantastic. You're not passionate enough about this.
No, gotta go farther, evidently.
No, it's great. So one of the things that I'm curious about when we start thinking about spreading this to other institutions, organizations, especially on the security side, is what has happened over the last several years when it comes to unifying groups, both exchanges, institutions, individuals, so that when there is a hack, like what BitBuy, whatever, what was it that happened, like $1.2 billion?
BitGet. No, that was Bybit.
Bybit, okay.
Sorry.
So that happened.
BitGet also had, everybody is
so many.
Right.
So is there a better coordination among people such that when tokens are stolen, absconded with, that people are blocking it at certain junctures so they can sort of get it back to the original holders?
Sure. There is. We've done a lot of improvements over the last few years as a security community here. And this is primarily through some nonprofit institutions, most especially SEAL, that have really led the charge on that front. Now, most of this is happening through private personal relationships that people have, and that's what drives it, right? Because there's going to be a certain group of parties that work with the exchanges, there are going to be certain groups of parties that work at the stablecoin firms, there's going to be certain groups of parties that work at the layer 1 or the bridge layers, and these are your key junctions, right? You freeze something at the bridge, you freeze something at the level of the contracts of the stablecoin, or you freeze something at the exchange level. But everybody's nervous about applying these things because self-sovereignty, permissionlessness, I mean, these are important principles of the space, and the hackers, right, especially these criminal groups, really put you in a hard place where you're stuck in between. So we've come a long way in that regard where we are able to block more assets. You can look at something like the CEDAS hack that happened on SWI, and something like 3/4 of the 300 million-ish in assets were able to be blocked, and this is particularly at the SWI blockchain level. This is great progress, but it also comes with its own risks. So we haven't solved this problem. We haven't created a scalable solution. It's still just going through the personal networks of connections between one security operator and another, from myself to my friend, right? From yourself to your friend. And we need something that's going to work a little bit better than that when we're talking about trillions of dollars in prime time and multiple state-sponsored attackers really doing this work. So improvements, yes. We've improved an order of magnitude, but we need to go up 1 or 2 orders of magnitude in order to get where we need to be.
Okay, fair enough. No, I appreciate that. So one of the things I spend tons of time on is the agentic AI. So the agents, and in coordination with blockchain and crypto and all that fun stuff. So I'm kind of curious about this. I thought about the other day, I was like, all right, what is he going to say to this? What are the concepts in this space around security when in the next few years we're going to see agents really taking over? Well, in the beginning, it's yes, human interaction. It's like, hey, agent, do this, do that. But at some point, they're going to be far more autonomous. Do you think you'll ever have a bug bounty for AI agents?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
And in some sense, we already do.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
So we work with a number of the major AI agents platforms, like Virtuals, for example, to secure their assets. And a big part of that, of course, are the AI agents that they already have. They already have jailbreaking risk that they have to deal with, which can cause both ridicule but also theft of funds. And a number of AI agents have been hacked this way, effectively through sophisticated forms of social media-driven prompt injection. So we already live in that world, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's still avant-garde. It's still small amounts of money, just like ICOs were small amounts of money in 2015.
Initially,
right? But it's very clear how that can become very large, how those things can really explode quickly. So we're already in that world. We're exploring this with our partners at Virtuals and I believe some of the other major firms. We have built some of our own agent technology internally, so we understand how do we gate this away from external parties to make sure it's used safely. How do we make sure it's effectively access controlled when we hand it off to our customers so that they can get the most out of it without being able to access sensitive information. We're already there.
Okay.
And it's going to be an absolutely huge thing. You're going to find most of Immunefi's product and service being available to effectively agents in this kind of API-esque way, where for the most part a human may not even be using the system. Okay?
Right. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
Yes.
So flip side, around the security aspect, around AI, what's crazy, think about this. So we met in 2022, I think it was like September. So that was before OpenAI had come out with ChatGPT. I haven't, for better or worse, tracking OpenAI since 2018. So like, this is what's happening, what you guys are doing, it's insane. And then of course that hits and everyone's like, oh my God, this is totally transformative. So when it comes to your security, you're building groups, obviously you have people on the ground, they're trying to figure these things out, they're auditing smart contracts, all of that fun stuff, plus the bug bounties, all these things in concert. How much are you starting to lean on AI to start to go through these much more than ever before, I'm assuming?
100%.
Yeah.
I mentioned on the previous comment that we had created some of our own agents, and it is precisely for these kinds of applications. So for example, one exciting thing that we're announcing today is that we have created, for some time now, we have been operating an AI auditing or code review agent that is better than most auditing firms.
Okay.
Reliably finding terrifying critical funds at risk vulnerabilities.
Wow.
Right? And finding them at scale, reviewing whole and vast code bases that human beings wouldn't even be able to keep in their memory. So this is something that we're already doing.
Okay.
It's not a hypothetical future, It's not far off. We are already applying this to securing our customers. And we're also applying this in other ways. We have another agent that we apply at the security level, whose job is to oversee all of your security infrastructure and make targeted improvements and optimizations. So for example, how do we keep all the contracts, all your documentation, all your websites, your team information in mind and all the context they're in, and be like, hey, how do we, are we doing enough to secure our hardware? Are we doing enough to secure our internal infrastructure? And how should we begin to approach those changes given the manpower and the money that we have? We have a system that can do that level of analysis and is actively doing it for over 150 customers right now.
Crazy. It's impressive. Very impressive.
Many more such cases to come.
Yeah.
The future of Immunefi, and this machine-driven example that we just dove into a bit, is these agents effectively calling our system, but then our agents responding and doing the work according to their needs, because we are baking the most elite learnings and best practices and data sets into these models and into these techniques. And this is what's going to allow incredible leverage to security teams. This is how we scale that security vision I gave to you in the beginning. We just don't have the talent. There's not enough people in the world to staff every firm.
Right.
That's not going to be an option.
No, it's impossible.
But with these kinds of agents, we can have a world-class security operator, a CISO of the highest caliber, working on every niche security problem for every single project at 100, and 10% every single day. It's night and day difference. This is how we're going to stay safe and scale.
No, it makes total sense. All right, pivoting a little bit. I'm kind of curious because the tokenization of all assets, right, with securities, real estate, everything's going to be on chain, all going to be tokenized, probably the next, 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, who knows. I'm kind of curious, with a lot of the companies, the financial institutions that are not used to this still, there's a lot of skepticism still, moving in the right direction, but not fully there yet. Are you guys brought in on these larger pitches to make people feel more comfortable, like, hey, we're auditing everything, we have all these procedures in place, as in concert with other organizations that are clearly doing parts of what the entire pitch is. What are you hearing? What does it feel like from some of the institutions right now? Are they getting a little bit more on board with it?
Sure.
Okay, so does it feel better than it did even a year ago, or?
It is night and day compared to how things used to be. So there is a dramatic influx in the level of interest, right? Everybody's restarting their blockchain strategy in some sense. But more than that, you have a bunch of pilot projects that might have started in 2017 or 2018 that have really hit their stride over the last few years and have become permanent parts of these organizations. So for example, major American banks will have these things. And they are looking for security excellence, right? I'm spending time talking to digital asset treasury companies who are looking for their edge, right? And they understand that they need to come to someone like me in order to stay safe in this environment. They're asking me, hey Mitchell, look, we want to expand our yield opportunities for our customers and take in, tens and then hundreds of billions of dollars in staking capital, for example, on ETH. How do we know what's safe or not? How do we get to what's safe or not? How can you make sure that these things are safe or not? So this is the world we're already in and moving towards. There is still skepticism from some of the larger, more traditional players, I would say, but the skepticism isn't a blocker to proceeding. Youngblood has already decided that they're going to be making this investment. They've already got their pilot projects out the door. Now the question is only how far, right? Are these permission blockchain instances that we see in so many of these banking institutions, for example, is that going to become a kind of hybrid public-private permission blockchain network?
Right.
And there are several proposals to do exactly that. There are some networks that already exist. It's a political will problem, nothing more.
Fascinating. And it does make sense. One of the last questions that I have is really about, I know you're agnostic when it comes to chains, blockchains, whatever the case is, but do you see a trend right now where one or two seem to be jockeying ahead of Ethereum, like Solana, Avalanche, Near, or anything Sui? Are any of those in particular sort of moving in a position where it seems like they're making progress that maybe Ethereum isn't right now? I don't know.
I think it's the opposite case. I think, and I say this with frustration because certainly I've been watching Ethereum grow and struggle over the last few years. It's been a huge grind. But this year, they absolutely hit their stride. And the reason for that has nothing to do with the Ethereum leadership, which has generally been, not as operationally active as their community might like. But the DATs have come out as superstars, effectively providing a free highly scalable, multi-pronged, institutionally targeted growth engine. Okay? And Ethereum already had the network effects from DeFi. It already had the stables, it already had the virtual machine, it already had everything going for it. But what it was weak at was its engagement with the public markets and ultimately go to market towards institutional capital. And the DATs have effectively solved that problem. And so I really think at the opposite, in comparison, Solana is still growing, it's an exciting place. A number of these new chains are still growing, they're interesting. I think, you have new experiments like a Canton network that is very exciting. But I think Ethereum finally hit its trough and now it's back on the ascent. And we don't know how far that can go. So that is where I would say the single most exciting ecosystem. Today it's Ethereum, driven by this DAT hype that is going to bring tens of billions of dollars every single year into that ecosystem of fresh, real, rehypothecatable capital.
That's a great phrase. All right, the one comment I have about that is fascinating. With the 3 conferences today, one was Solana focused, one was a little bit Ethereum focused, the other was like Bitcoin focused. And each one of them was playing with Bitcoin. The idea was, Solana was like, oh, we're going to do the best wrapping for Bitcoin. Ethereum's the same thing. And Bitcoin's like, nope, we're just going to do it on our own. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if they're in sync enough to be able to produce something like that, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch them build more smart contracts on chain, but it's going to be cool to see. Mitchell, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic.
Pleasure's all mine.
Tech Snippets Today with Joseph Raczynski.